I want to let you in on a secret. I actually don't do a great deal of public speaking. I'm the guy back there picking the speakers. That's what I like to do. When I come up here on stage, I actually get nervous, and in the next 40 minutes, who knows, some truly embarrassing and terrible things could happen. But I have some good news for you, which is that because of that, I have decided to bring with me some of the best TED speakers ever to grace the TED stage. And they're going to be co-presenting this thing with me. So that should, I hope, save the day. Now, let's see. Oh, by the way, they may shock you. They certainly shocked me. Pretty much everything I thought I knew about education has been turned upside down by listening to these people. So we'll see. Now, look, most of you were born and brought up here in the US, and you've devoted your lives to education. My story's different. I was born in Pakistan, and I grew up in India in this beautiful international boarding school in the Himalayan mountains. I was the plump, nerdy guy who loved science and math, hated history, couldn't understand why none of the girls were at all interested. It's heartbreaking. And until TED, my focus has been on media, as you heard. But despite these different stories, we both believe something incredible. It's a miracle. We believe a miracle, specifically this miracle. A human being stands in front of other human beings. She opens her mouth and speaks. These sound waves go across the room. They are converted into electrical signals inside the brains of the people listening. Those brains, in real time, are rewired. And that process actually changes the lives of those people forever. Because these complex neurological things that we might call ideas or knowledge or understanding have somehow made the leap from speaker's brain to receiver's brain. This is a really incredible thing. I've seen this happen at every conference and just to random people online when they watch a TED Talk. You, however, you've devoted your lives to this miracle and to the people for whom it matters most, to kids who have their whole lives and our collective futures in front of them. So I would like to begin by tipping my hat and acknowledging that I am in the presence of heroes. Not always acknowledged as such, outrageously underpaid, but heroes nonetheless. Now here's the thing. This miracle doesn't always work. And my purpose today really is to try and understand why that is so and what we might do about it. So to articulate the problem, here is a man who's much more articulate and certainly much funnier than I am, the #1 star of TED Talks, one Sir Ken Robinson. Here's what he has to say.
The whole point of education is to get people to learn. A friend of mine, old friend, actually very old, he's dead. That's as old as it gets, I'm afraid. So, but a wonderful guy, he was, a wonderful philosopher. He used to talk about the difference between the task and achievement senses of verbs. You know, you can be engaged in the activity of something, but not really be achieving it. It's like dieting. It's a very good example, you know. There he is, he's dieting. Is he losing any weight? Not really. Teaching is a word like that. You can say, there's Deborah, she's in room 34, she's teaching. But if nobody's learning anything, she may be engaged in the task of teaching, but not actually fulfilling it. The role of a teacher is to facilitate learning. That's it.
How can there be teaching without learning? I mean, everyone's got an opinion on this. You know, classrooms are too big, or now they're too small. Schools are underfunded. Teachers aren't accountable. Those damn teacher unions. Parents aren't doing their job. We've designed a system for the industrial age, and now, hello, we're in the knowledge age. So there's truth in all these things. And you know, that last one in particular, I mean, if you look at the workplace, it has changed spectacularly over the last 60 years. Schools? Well, not so much. Kind of still desks in a row. But when you look at these faces, there's a clue to a deeper problem, an underlying problem. I mean, look at this guy right here, for example. Now, this is actually the son of a colleague of mine. His name's, we're going to call him Luigi. And I have a question for you. Is Luigi going to learn anything today? I'm thinking not, right? Because we can agree on this, that ideas, knowledge, understanding, these aren't things that you can push into a brain. It has to be pulled in. And the engine that pulls it in is called curiosity. So you could argue that the overwhelming job of education, any education system, is to turn this guy into this guy. This is curious, Luigi. He is going to learn today. Because, look, we're in an era where if you have curiosity, the whole world of knowledge is there at your fingertips. 30 years ago, if you wanted to have the world of knowledge at your fingertips, you'd have to carry a pile of books a mile high. It's just not awfully practical. Today, one of these will do, without the sound effects. It's my phone. This is quite literally The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, used properly. I mean, it's an astonishing device. You ask it a question, you get the answer. Hello, Google, how are you doing? Hey, can you remind me the date of the Spanish Armada? Oh, yeah, OK, thanks. That's what I thought. How about the chemical molecular structure of ethanol? Oh, that was fast. Appreciate it. Because of this, just because of this one fact, arguably, the entire educational system should be changed. This changes everything. But we don't act as if that is so. We still act as if this was true. This is based on a model of kids, their minds being empty buckets, and our job is to push knowledge into it, which is true when knowledge was a scarce thing. But now that knowledge is free and everywhere, the problem is not that. The problem is the desire for the knowledge. We need to do a little editing here. There we go. That's better. Light that fire, and the knowledge will come. But look, this opens up a really terrible paradox, because the same technology that produced this super machine also produced a bunch of things that actually make it much harder for kids to be excited about learning. It created thousands of alternative glittering objects of attention. Video games, Facebook, Twitter, text messaging. I mean, when I was talking earlier about curiosity, there was a guy roughly in that area who was sort of down, looking at his email, which admittedly, in the moment, was far more interesting than the awkward Brit on stage. But there are consequences to this. The point, the anchor of the talk lost. Everything I say from now on, tragically, will seem even more random than it otherwise would have done. Every speaker and every conference faces this problem. Every teacher faces it 100 times more. Even those schools or classes wise enough not to allow the inclusion of smart devices in there still contain minds that have been shaped by those devices. Shorter attention spans, different expectations. What on earth are we going to do about this? We're all in the middle of this all-out war for attention, and it's hard. The reason TED Talks look the way they do is because we've tried to take that war seriously. We've tried to craft knowledge in a way that it has at least a shot at squeezing in there in among the other silly videos and stuff that's out there. What can schools do to win the attention battle, to persuade kids that learning is exciting? Well, technology is the problem, but it's also possibly part of the answer. I want to share with you a tale of two teachers. Here's the first one. Many of you will know him. This is Sal Khan, the founder of Khan Academy. Not your typical teacher. Khan Academy, as you know, 6,000 plus videos online now, seen by millions of kids. Here's how he told a bit of his story at TED.
Some of y'all might know, about 5 years ago, I was an analyst at a hedge fund. And I was in Boston, and I was tutoring my cousins in New Orleans remotely. And I started putting the first YouTube videos up really just as kind of a nice-to-have, just kind of a supplement for my cousins, something that might give them a refresher or something. And as soon as I put those first YouTube videos up, something interesting happened. Actually, a bunch of interesting things happened. The first was the feedback from my cousins. They told me that they preferred me on YouTube than in person. And once you get over the backhanded nature of that, there was actually something very profound there. They were saying that they preferred the automated version of their cousin to their cousin. At first, it's very unintuitive, but when you actually think about it from their point of view, it makes a ton of sense. You have this situation where now they can pause and repeat their cousin. Now they can, without feeling like they're wasting my time. They could, if they have to review something that they should have learned a couple of weeks ago or maybe a couple of years ago, they don't have to be embarrassed and ask their cousin. They can just watch those videos. If they're bored, they can go ahead. They can watch it at their own time, at their own pace. And probably the least appreciated, I guess, aspect of this is the notion that the very first time that you're trying to get your brain around a new concept, the very last thing you need is another human being saying, do you understand this? And that's what was happening with the interaction with my cousins before, and now they could just do it kind of in the intimacy of their own room. The other thing that happened, and even at this point, I said, okay, maybe it's a good supplement, it's good for motivated students, it's good for maybe homeschoolers, but I didn't think it would be something that would somehow penetrate the classroom. But then I started getting letters from teachers. And the teachers would write saying, we've used your videos to flip the classroom. You've given the lectures. So now what we do, and this could actually happen in every classroom in America tomorrow, what I do is I assign the lectures for homework, and what used to be homework, I now have the students doing in the classroom. And I want to pause here for I want to pause here for a second because there's a couple of interesting things. One, when those teachers are doing that, there's the obvious benefit. There's the benefit that now their students can enjoy the videos in the way that my cousins did. They can pause, repeat at their own pace, at their own time. But the more interesting thing, and this is the unintuitive thing when you talk about technology in the classroom, by removing the one-size-fits-all lecture from the classroom and letting students have a self-paced lecture at home, and then when you go to the classroom, letting them do work, having the teacher walk around, having the peers actually be able to interact with each other. These teachers have used technology to humanize the classroom. They took a fundamentally dehumanizing experience, a bunch of 30 kids with their fingers on their lips, not allowed to interact with each other. A teacher, no matter how good, has to give this kind of one-size-fits-all lecture to 30 students, blank faces, slightly antagonistic, and now it's a human experience. Now they're actually interacting with each other.
So I would argue that a well-made video has a better chance of competing in that brutal attention war that goes on in every teenager's mind. A better chance of competing with, say, a textbook or a standard classroom talk. We at TED, watched ourselves in amazement as these talks went viral online. People chose to share them, and we suddenly realized that we were entering an era where a single speaker could suddenly reach millions of people around the world, and how transformative that was. And that any person, any student who was connected could summon to their screen the world's great teachers. I mean, that is breathtaking. That has not happened before in history, and it's an incredibly hopeful indication of what might be to come. And so to build on that, we decided to try and roll this out a bit more specifically in education and to allow teachers to, in a sense, become their own Sal Khans. We paired them with animators, had them teach their best lesson, and created these short videos that were then shared for free online. Now, this turned out to be transformative for the teachers themselves. They told us that in the first 24 hours that these videos went up online, they had reached more kids than in their entire lives to date. But what about the impact on the kids themselves? So take a look at this. This is 3 kids watching their first TED Ed video in the presence of the teacher who made it.
Somebody hit the space bar.
Somebody jump out of this?
No.
That was cool. I like that. Did you do that? You animated this?
Is that supposed to be you?
What is proof?
No.
And why is it so important in mathematics?
Oh,
Proofs provide a solid foundation for mathematicians, logicians, statisticians, economists, architects, engineers, and many others to build and test their theories on. But luckily, I know the definition of midpoint. It is basically the point in the middle. What this means is that the doubt that some theorem is true, then you use those theorems like...
Really good.
Lesson, Scott Kennedy.
Is that cool?
That was awesome. I really liked it.
Yeah, so it's on this website, TED Ed, that has like over a billion.
So, this is great. We've actually had 90 million TED Ed videos seen so far and counting. But what matters far more than those numbers are the reactions on the faces of those kids. You saw it. Houston, we have ignition. So, am I saying that these great lessons on videos should replace today's teachers? No. Oh no, I am not saying that. I would like to introduce you to the second of the two teachers in my tale of two teachers. Her name is Rita Pearson. This is a remarkable woman. She tragically passed away last year. But several months before she passed, we were able to capture her giving a really wonderful talk where she spoke of the importance and the power of a teacher building a relationship with kids, a relationship, an authentic relationship where she celebrated them and looked after every possible interest that they had, and was even willing to apologize to them.
I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class. Because I am the best teacher and you are the best students, they put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise, you just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so, I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad.
So Rita has left us, but her inspiration lives on. That talk has been seen by more than 3 million people. And, I mean, you tell me, would you like to have been taught by Rita Pearson? I mean, I would. She's so inspiring. You would feel every day that you could be just a little bit better with that woman. The only thing is, I wouldn't want her teaching me math. But here's the thing. In the internet era, she doesn't have to teach you math. She can have Sal Khan teach you math. She can bring him into her classroom on video or have her kids watch him at home in their own time and leave that time and energy free for her to be the amazing coach, mentor, tutor, guide, cheerleader that she clearly is. So is this how it could pan out? Could it be that technology will allow teachers to specialize, to find their truest calling, their best self? I mean, certainly that's happened in pretty much every other field you look at. Here's a picture of a doctor from 150 years ago. So let's see. The same guy, basically, would check out what was wrong with you as best he could, you know, decide surgery is necessary, knock you out with a swig of whiskey and a blow to the head, cut you open, sew you up, look after you, and then, yes, sure, sometime later deliver your baby. You know, today, technology has allowed people to become anesthesiologists and radiologists and surgeons and gynecologists. And you know what? Most of us don't want to roll the clock back to there. And in 100 years' time, it's possible that how we teach today will look as silly as that does now. But when you talk about this, when you talk about technology coming in, this is the fear that people have. This is a misfear. This is a misplaced fear. It's not going to be like this. Video allows all kinds of teachers to better leverage their time, the thing that's most precious to them, and to find their best strength. We need to edit this as well. This is the way that this can pan out. But if it's true that there are these two roles that we need to think about for teachers, at least two, that has radical implications for how schools are organized, obviously. I mean, answer me this. You know, what is the ideal classroom size for Sal Khan? 30 kids? Not so much, no. Like millions of kids. And a classroom organized on their own time. And with Rita Pearson, what is the right time for her to continue a relationship with her kids? Are you going to cut it off after 1 year? That's enough? No. You know, she should perhaps collect the kids who she has a connection with and stay with them for the whole of their time at school, be their curator of all these other teachers and lessons coming in. So there are a lot of people dreaming up new ways of modeling schools, and here's one of them. This is Ricardo Semler. He's a maverick Brazilian business leader whose companies thrived by doing things like giving employees, allowing them to work whatever hours they wanted, opening the books so that everyone knew what salary everyone was making. A remarkable man. He's recently turned his attention to education, and at last month's TED Global, he gave a talk. We haven't posted this yet, so this is an exclusive for you. But here's a snippet of what he's thinking.
We set up a foundation which now has, for 11 years, has 3 schools, where we started asking the same questions. How do you redesign school for wisdom? It's one thing to say, we need to recycle the teachers, we need the directors to do more, But the fact is that what we do with education is entirely obsolete. The teacher's role is entirely obsolete. Going from a math class to biology to 14th century France is very silly. And so we started thinking, what could it look like? And we put together people, including people who like education, people like Paulo Freire and 2 ministers of education in Brazil. And we said, if we were to design a school from scratch, what would it look like? And so we created this school, which is called Lumiar. And Lumiar, one of them is a public school. And Lumiar says the following: let's divide this role of the teacher into 2. One guy we'll call a tutor. A tutor, in the old sense of the Greek paideia sense, is look after the kid. What's happening at home? What's their moment in life, etc. But please don't teach, because the little you know compared to Google, we don't want to know. Keep that to yourself. Now, we'll bring in people who have 2 things: passion and expertise, and it could be their profession or not. And we use the senior citizens, which are 25% of the population, with wisdom that nobody wants anymore. So we bring them to school, and we say, teach these kids whatever you really believe in. So we have violinists teaching math. We have all kinds of things where we say, don't worry about the course material anymore. We have approximately 10 great threads that go from 2 to 17. Things like, how do we measure ourselves as humans? So there's place for math and physics and all that there. How do we express ourselves? So there's place for music and literature, et cetera, but also for grammar. And then we have things that everyone has forgotten, which are probably the most important things in life. The very important things in life, we know nothing about. We know nothing about love. We know nothing about death. We know nothing about why we're here. So we need a thread in school that talks about everything we don't know. So that's a big part of what we do. Yeah. One of the things that Ricardo goes on to talk about there is how kids can actually learn from each other. This can actually happen today more than ever in history. I want to show you a picture of a 7-year-old kid doing something that probably almost no 7-year-olds before him had been able to do in history. Here's the kid.
Step your game up, oh. Step your game up, oh.
So, I mean, how do you think he learned that? Watching YouTube, right? Learned from other kids. And why did he put in all the hours to make that possible? Well, a lot of it is because of this number right here. I mean, think about that. This kid was able to entertain several sports stadiums crammed with people. That recognition hit from that is spectacular. So when you're in a world where, one, you've got visibility of what the best people in the world can do, two, you have the possibility that you could be kind of a global star, that drives this cycle of learning, of innovation, of desire to learn from each other that's really incredible. If you look out on the web, in every one of thousands of areas, there's this learning cycle happening. Dancing, clearly, musicianship, skateboard, unicycling, cake making, video poetry, Rube Goldberg machines. It's absolutely incredible what's happening out there. Could it happen in education, like in kind of academic topics or whatever? Well, I think it might. We've certainly noticed that in the world of speakers, they are all raising their game because they can see what's possible and they have extra motivation to do it in the video age. What about kids? Well, we've launched a thing called TED Ed Clubs, which is an attempt over 12 sessions to teach kids to give their own TED talk, their own TED-like talk. It's absolutely thrilling seeing them come through this process and seeing a talk. Here's one of them.
You know, I love science fiction. I'm wearing my Star Trek t-shirt today, just to prove that to you. But I do more than just sit on the couch and watch episodes of Star Trek. I tend to think about the trends I see when I watch science fiction. And today I'd like to present to you some of the differences between the predictions made by science fiction and what we see in reality in the world around us today.
So, Merrick Sellis, clearly a remarkable kid, but seeing the boost in confidence these kids get by doing that is thrilling. But there might be something more. As we post these videos and as kids see what other kids are doing, could it spark a kind of a cycle? Maybe it could. Whatever happens, we're convinced that presentation literacy, for want of a better phrase, is in the 21st century is going to turn out to be a core skill, perhaps as important as the other 3 R's. But speaking of science fiction, what of the future? You know, this is the hard question, the hardest single question. What's the future we're preparing kids for? Of course, no one knows. We do have some clues. We know it's not going to look like the industrial age. It probably won't look that much like the present. We know that robots, artificial intelligences, computers are gaining in power all the time. And there's obviously this fear that all of the current jobs that are out there are going to be eaten up by them. It's concerning. Is Marc Andreessen right when he says that all the jobs in the future are going to be telling computers what to do or being told by computers what to do? I think he's not right. I think he's not right. I want to show you a clip that was, it's a performance really, that was at one of our TEDx events. So those robots are cute and cool, but they could only do what they did there because of the genius of Bruno Messonnier, who's the guy in the background there. And to me, that's just a hint of how things might pan out. The future may be collaboration. Collaboration between us and the machines we create. Collaboration between really smart, really interesting machines and humans with a certain skill set. What is that skill set? What are humans for? What can't the machines readily take away? I think the answer to that might well be creativity. Creativity in general. That's what we care about. And I don't think it's any surprise, actually, that the #1 TED Talk of all time was Sir Ken Robinson's eloquent plea for schools to celebrate creativity and not bury it. We need this for the future, for a future that can avoid just being suppressed. And so this statement, I think, is potentially a dangerous one. I love science, technology, engineering, and math more than anyone. I'm a nerd, I'm in there. But I think this statement might be the truer one. So we're going to wrap this up fairly soon. The core thing I really want to leave with you is the goal is curiosity. It's to nurture curiosity. And the world's best teachers made available on video may be able to help in that mission. But nurture is the key word there, nurture curiosity. We don't teach it. Kids don't need to be taught it. They are curious. Every 3-year-old obviously asks the question why all the time. The tragedy of today's education, I think, is that the single most popular why question is, why the hell are you teaching me this? Why is this anything to do with my future? This is a question we have to take seriously. I mean, that guy who we just saw on video was a robot choreographer. Who ever thought of being a robot choreographer? I never did. I thought the choices open to me when I grew up in school were to be a doctor, a teacher, or a missionary, like my parents. I only just escaped, And if I was at school today, I would love to be presented with a broader palette of possibility. A robot choreographer, a marine conservationist, a tech-empowered archaeologist, a vaccine researcher, a drone pilot, a climate modeler, an education reformer. All of these amazing people can be brought into schools actually pretty easily. On video, it'll do nicely. And when someone sees that and they find that that is who they are inspired by, I think that starts to change everything. Some of the most thrilling feedback we get from TED speakers is the messages they get from kids, and they get it all the time. I want to be you. So what if we started there? Because if we can't answer the why question, I think the whole education project is in danger of failing. What if instead we had an honest conversation with kids? What if we said, you know what, the future actually is really uncertain, but it's probably going to be teeming with possibilities that our generation never faced. Our job is to show you some of those possibilities, to maybe help you find the one that you're most passionate about and is best suited to your skills, who you are. And then our job is just to give you some mental tools to allow you to be that person. And that's it. And what are those tools? Well, I think they're probably pretty different to a lot of what we teach today. Just a hunch. I asked my driver today, coming in from the station, what he thought on this. He said, we should be teaching etiquette. I've got a few other suggestions. If I was at school now, this is what I would like to, oh, I'm pressing the wrong thing. This is what I would like to know. Okay, so it's really easy to talk grand dreams of education reform. Actually being in the weeds and doing the work, that is where the heroism comes in. That's the hard part. But hey, we've already agreed, you are heroes. You can do this. It is the most important work on the planet. I wish you every success, good luck, and Godspeed, and thank you very much. Thank you. That's very generous. I would like to hear from you now. I think we have 22 minutes or so of Q&A time. If you have any questions, either about any of this that I've been throwing out, or about any questions about TED, or indeed anything else. Are there microphones? I guess there are microphones here. So I guess it's put up a hand and wait till a mic comes to you. And if you have a mic, just begin.
Clint Laird from Wilmington, Delaware, with Caesar Rodney Institute. Could you expand a little bit on the TED Ed clubs? That seems like a pretty infectious idea.
Thank you. Yes, it's an initiative that's only a few months old. We piloted it. It got rolled out a few months ago. I believe it's in about 2,500 schools right now, and growing fast. And a teacher, or possibly a parent, who applies for this gets a toolkit that just allows them to effectively take kids through 12 weeks, one session a week, that builds up to them finding their idea, understanding what goes into making a talk, and how to prepare for it. And then at the end of that process, they stand on a stage surrounded by their peers, and they give their talks. And the feedback we've had, and on some of the videos we've seen, is that some of the kids who are real wallflowers just come out of their shell and they shine, and they feel different later. Now, if you roll the clock forward, presentation literacy, in the future, if you're going to make a mark on the world, are you going to do that by writing to the newspaper editor or whatever? Quite probably not. It's more likely to be a video on YouTube or some other, something on Facebook or whatever. So I think these are important skills, and kids love them. And as I say, the bigger dream is that over time we'll actually accumulate an archive of usable lessons. Kid shall speak unto kid, as it were. It's free, by the way. Anyone can just go on to ed.ted.com, apply and download, and there's a process, but we try and take people through.
Hi, I'm Joanna Johannes from Florida, and we started a very unique school there where we have one campus inside of a zoo, and a lot of your ideas that you were talking about today we've done, but I find that it's a very unique situation to find a teacher that knows how to spark creativity in the classroom. And I try to find training seminars they can go to, but I'm trying to hire the right teachers to do that and spark creativity. We have marine biology every day and zoology, so I'm finding some in between there. But how do you find the core academic teachers, like for math or algebra, that can also be fun and happy and make them want to learn more? And what kind of seminars are there out there where those types of teachers could be trained like that?
So I don't know the answer to several of your questions there. I mean, the core idea that interests me is that the actual subject-based instruction, that can be scaled. I think that's the bit, to really make physics come alive. You know, I love physics growing up. I rarely had a great physics teacher. I got my love of physics by finding a few books where suddenly I got it and it came alive. The teachers, it was hard. And it's a really hard topic to really explain and make it clear. So for that, do that on video. Use, you know, if Richard Feynman was alive today, he could be in every school in America. And he could ignite people's minds as far as the physics pieces are concerned. The other piece isn't about subject expertise. It's about being a great human being, an intuitive human being, an empathetic human being who's passionate about kids, who's willing to learn with them, and who goes out onto the web and finds the resources that are there and pulls them in. And I think there are at least two fundamentally different skill sets. And if we design systems for that, it might be easier to do what you're suggesting.
It's on? Okay. Eric Miller from La Crosse, Wisconsin. Brilliant, by the way. I'm constantly on watching the videos that you release to the world. You touched on social media, and I'm a big proponent of this, and I know there's a big fight about use of it in the classroom. It's where our children live. They spend an average of 7 to 8 hours a day on an internet-connected device. And if you don't believe me, think about your children. So my question to you is, how do we view that in a positive way and get this information, these videos that are out there, I couldn't agree more. I was once told that if I had to create a school, it would no longer be brick and mortar. And I think there's more truth to that now than there ever was. The information is out there. The internet is the largest repository of information in the human history. So your views on social media, because that's where they live. They don't even live on Facebook anymore. It's all Instagram, Snapchat, etc. How do you collaborate, self-paced learning? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't have a solution on that. What I do know is that is a toxic distraction. If someone's supposed to be in a class listening to something else and they've got this going on the side, I think it's pretty hard to multitask, even though they can probably multitask better than we can. I mean, the tool is at some point to build a system where at some point the power of those tools is tapped into. Build a network of kids, maybe across the country, who can inspire each other to do something, set them a goal. If you can, once kids see the chance to do something themselves on something they're passionate about and be recognized for it, you know, to be the star. I think it's amazing the motivation that can come in those circumstances. So, but it comes back to building off the spark of what they are passionate about. And I don't think every kid knows what they're passionate about. I think, you know, so the other part of it is catalyzing possibility to them, showing a much larger palette of possibilities for their future, for example, that could catalyze those sparks and make them ask the right questions and go from there.
Ed Emery from Missouri. You had mentioned when you first came out wisdom as opposed to knowledge. And I guess I think of the elements of learning as wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And I was wondering, what do you see as the elements of learning? How critical are they? How do we distinguish them, and how do we satisfy each one of them?
Again, I wouldn't claim particular expertise on this. The piece that we know should be boxed and treated differently are facts. So knowledge is an ambiguous word, and you can know some very deep things. But there's a huge category of facts that were part of traditional education. Learn that, learn that, learn that, learn that. All of that should be deprioritized because it's just not relevant to everyone. So I think the riddle for me is, what are the mental tools we should give kids? And what are the fundamental worldviews which will allow them to explore the world of knowledge in a useful way? I mean, clearly, we need to teach kids how to use the web intelligently, how to Google, how to be skeptical, how to know that not everything you read makes sense. We also need to give them some kind of worldview into which they can plug their knowledge. I would love to see every kid with a real passion for science and understanding the power of science, and that it's humanity's huge, extraordinary endeavor to discover truth about the world. But you don't have to know every detail of science. You just have to be excited by some pieces of it. So I think that 1,000 experiments need to be done, and I think in different circumstances, different things are going to work. But what doesn't work is forcing facts on people who aren't interested in those facts. It's just got to start with desire. And learning is so exciting. I mean, the world just gets more and more exciting. There's absolutely amazing what's happening in science. If we can find that spark, it just seems like there's so much potential for kids to learn more and faster than they've ever done before. Governor.
Chris, thank you for being here. Fantastic speech, and I'm glad you brought your friends via video. I'm curious about net neutrality, what your views are for the optimum policy that could get the massive amount of bandwidth that's necessary for your vision of what the world looks like to make this possible.
I mean, broadly, I'd support net neutrality. I think the key driver for me, or what's really interesting, is what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, I think the one thing we know for sure is that bandwidth is going to continue to spread throughout the world. And it's going to be shockingly soon that not just, I don't know, 1.5 billion people are connected to the web, but 7 or 8 billion people are. And also with the ability to access video. So, I mean, that really is significant. That means that any great teacher can reach any human on Earth. Wow, wow. So what are we going to do with that? And for me, it's for TED. We have to really dream radically about what is the future of the TED Talk. It encompasses far, far more than we are currently doing, because if you picture the girl in the village, the boy in the slum, what we're currently saying is probably not front and center for them, but there are teachers out there who could inspire them. We need to find them and capture them. So that's what I focus on. I mean, I think TED doesn't get involved in political debates or policy debates or issues on this, but in general, we believe passionately in the value of the internet generally and its ability to share knowledge. So we just don't want anything in the way that cramps that or pushes all the action towards corporations that can afford it and not to, for example, teachers. Over here.
Yes, Representative Matt Pouliot from Maine. I'm just curious how you test for proficiency in creativity.
I think you do that by putting a video out on YouTube and see what the crowd says. I mean, testing, a lot of things you can't test for. And I would be very foolish to say anything about the whole, debate around testing. It's not my area. What I do know is that the world is very, very good at spotting stars. Someone does something great, it can spread like wildfire online. And I think the education system tends to be a little wary of a lot of things online. We don't quite trust Wikipedia because, ooh, it might contain errors, as if no textbook ever contained an error. You know, we don't quite trust YouTube, and you know, there's lots of terrible things on YouTube and so forth. But there's incredible power in a connected world, having visibility for the first time in history of the best practitioners of anything. It's a real crucible. And things that are fresh and different and genuinely innovative, they land there and they can explode overnight into something amazing. And we should celebrate the kids who are capable of doing that. I mean, I think schools should really encourage kids to be YouTube stars and to, you know, take glory with it and figure out how to do it. So that's my best answer on that. I don't think there's like a test to do it. You could get the opinion of creative people you trust, but it's hard to test. Over there.
My name is Ginny Kim. I'm an educator from Portland, Oregon. And this last week, I just had an experience of where my students were so much more moved and engaged in 6-minute video presentation than what I could ever have done and hoped for. So as an educator in a classroom, without any kind of resources allowed me, I was wondering where I could start. Some of the things that you presented here with animation, teaching teacher to doing the voiceover, the animation, that's really intriguing. I like to explore, but where can we go?
So there's many resources online. Khan Academy we've mentioned, TED Ed. You know, one of the things that we're doing that we're really excited by is giving any teacher the ability to build their own lesson based on any video at all. Any video on YouTube, you can embed in a page that you create. It has your headline on it, your intro, your multiple choice questions, your open questions. You can own that page, publish it, send it to your kids, see when they've watched the video, see how they've answered the questions, and come into class knowing which ones, you know, have aced everything and which ones might need some of your attention. And so viewed that way, your resources are any video that's on YouTube. You know, you could build a lesson out of someone milking a cow or doing a little, you know, scientific experiment or whatever. So what's thrilling is that teachers are becoming curators. They're sifting through the stuff that's out there and then framing it in a way that could then be shared and used by other teachers. So among the resources, and you know, there are so many out there, but certainly do spend some time browsing ed.ted.com and look at what some teachers are doing with those lessons, because it's really exciting to us to see. There's thousands of questions being answered by kids on there every day, and I just think that the power of America's teachers, the world's teachers, to rethink how you can help each other. This is the thing. You said, you know, you felt daunted by having to do this stuff you alone. That's not the world we're in now. Every other teacher on the planet potentially could help you teach your kids better. And it's thrilling to hear you say not, oh, there was a 6-minute video that did better than me, I hate that, but rather say, you welcomed it. That's what I heard in your voice, and I hope that's true. So thank you for that question.
Good afternoon. I'm State Representative G.A. Hardaway out of Memphis. I've enjoyed the whole presentation, everything that you've covered today, but I'm especially intrigued on the concept of individual learning from the video lecture and the group homework concept. Is this something that you're merely presenting as part of your commentary, or does TED have an active initiative on this, or is there some other type of formal research underway, formal program?
So we certainly didn't invent the concept of flip teaching. That's been being developed by several amazing pioneering teachers over the last 7 years. And some people have issues with it. There's different versions of it, mastery, blended learning, and so forth. But in general, in TED Ed, we are trying to facilitate flipped teaching, for want of a better term, by giving tools to any teacher to try it out free for their own class and build their own lesson. So a teacher could, in principle, video themselves giving a lesson so that they don't have to give it in a class. Put it on YouTube and have kids watch it at home in their own time. As Sal Khan said, you know, the slower ones can stop and pause, and the faster ones can fast forward it, and so forth. A teacher could do it that way, or they could use someone else's video, add questions to it, and monitor which kids have logged in and seen it. So yes, it very much is part of what we're doing. We're one of various people trying to experiment and let teachers experiment. And the early signs are absolutely thrilling. Teachers tell us that this is working and that they're seeing, you know, they're able to use their time more productively. Because what this does is it changes the time equation. It means that in class time, you don't have to stand there and go over the same subject just like you did the last year and the year before. You can go to the kids who need help. You can pair up the kids who already get the subject and have them teach us. You can engage in class activities of different kinds. There's just many other things you can do with that time to create a much richer learning experience. So I personally think it's thrilling. I think it changes the role of time. It basically increases the amount of time that an individual kid can spend learning and allows kids to learn at their own pace more effectively. Okay, I think we have time for like one more question. That's what I'm seeing right here.
Thank you. I'm Representative Craig Horn from North Carolina. And I appreciate you defining a little bit the difference between education for attainment and education for entertainment. And I'm concerned, though, that our kids know a whole lot more about how to use the YouTube and internet. And I'm almost embarrassed to admit that the next time I go to YouTube for information will be the first time I go to YouTube for information. But we've got this paradigm upside down. The kids know more about how to do it than the teachers. The teachers know more about how to do it than the people teaching the teachers to be teachers. We need to figure out a way to turn this paradigm back over so that we spread the word, and as an employer, at the end of the day, I'm glad you're entertained by all this, but I need a good business letter that's grammatically correct. So how are we going to get there?
I bet if you went on YouTube and looked for writing advice, you'd actually find it. And I actually think it's okay to be led a bit by the kids here. They like leading, they like doing the stuff, they like showing off. And I think even I see the risk about, you know, entertainment versus attainment. But I have a hunch that in the future, for the future that we're heading for, those two categories are actually slightly blurred. If you take creativity seriously, and you imagine a world where robots are doing most of the grunge work, I mean, what are humans for? You know, it's about making richer, fulfilled, more creative, more beautiful world for all of us. And I don't see that division of life in the future between work and play. I see a future where people feel passionate about things. They feel a sense of purpose. They want to make a better world. They're creative, they're playful, they're serious. And all of this can actually be integrated. So I think it's a challenge, and I think there's certainly plenty that can go wrong, and I don't think anyone has nailed exactly how to do this. But I really hope that the future will allow lots of experiments to be done. People to try and let kids show us what they're most passionate about. You know, we gave the TED Prize a couple of years ago to a guy called Sugata Mitra, who did the following experiment. He put computers in a hole in the wall, brought 4 kids in front of it, and left them to it. And he found that if you seeded one question to those kids, you'd be amazed what you'd come back and that they had discovered. I think those tools are really powerful, and if you start with curiosity, with curiosity that's informed by inspirational leaders, tutors, guides, I think it's going to amaze us what kids can do starting from that start point. Okay, so We're out of time. I just want to repeat my thanks to you, Governor Bush, for the invitation here, and to the work that all of you do. My job is really fun. I have one of the most fun jobs in the world. I bet that some days you think you have one of the hardest jobs in the world, because you do. This stuff is really hard. And just as you know, there's a lot of us who are in awe of that and are really appreciative that you're fighting the fight here. Don't give up. Thank you.